Hello, it is Friday evening. I hope everyone's doing all right. Feels like it's been quite a tense week. We've had a full moon, we've had more war, more anxiety, and all of those other things, but we've had some pretty nice moves in the crypto market. There's a lot of commentators at the moment, particularly Stanley Druckenmiller, who's really convinced that the moves in the market that we're seeing are based on the market now pricing in a Trump win, because everybody's really convinced now, or coming to the realization that actually Trump could win this time. Doesn't seem to be reflected in kind of Trump related tokens this week, and we'll take a look at them. First off, if you think the token is DJT, Trump coin, yeah, unfortunately this one is not a happy chart, and I don't really see it. We could say that this is accumulation, but until it starts breaking out of this sideways range all the way down here, this token really isn't going anywhere. And every time it gets up to kind of 500, the big seller comes in this one. The other one, of course, that they launched this week is the World Liberty Financial. Not a happy chart either. So not much to say about them. Let's talk about what is really interesting tonight, and that is Bitcoin. Because if we look on the weekly chart here at the sideways consolidation that we have been in since March, it really does look like we're trying to make a breakout. When you break out from this sideways range and sloping trend lines, your first target is always the previous high and low. And we need to watch out that we don't see, when we retest this, sellers come in. But that is going to be the first kind of wobble level. And if we can break above that, I really think that the next upside, we're kind of looking for is much higher. I think we might have a bit of a wobble level somewhere between 84 and 88,000. But, we seem to be on track for 100,000 next. I've got this, if we call this our first swing here from the low that we made in November 2022, and then, so that was our first swing, and project it from here. If the fifth wave that we are in and the first wave are equal, then we've already gone beyond that level, because that was 64,000. So if we say that this next swing is kind of 1.618 of the first swing, that means a retest of the highs and 74,000. And if we go to 2.618, I have that around 89,000 or 90,000. So those are, kind of based on my best guess of projections, where I think that we are headed next in Bitcoin. But the key thing is, we have peaked above this trend line before, and, we've had to keep moving it, and then we come back in. So we're in that kind of really tricky place. Do we have the momentum to keep going? I hope we do, but if we're looking at weekly candlesticks, then the weekly close is Sunday night, and we have still got 2 days to get through, and we'll see what the weekend does. If we look at where we are on the daily, or if we look on low time frames, here we are going sideways at this level. And one thing I will say, if you when I draw a level like an important support and resistance level, and we overshoot it, the most common, if it's not going to work, or if it's going to fail, the most common resistance pattern that you tend to see, or topping pattern, is a head and shoulders pattern when you kind of overshoot levels. So I wouldn't want to see that form here. I would like to see nice little 3-wave corrections, even if they're very choppy and overlapping, which is common in a wave 5, and I would like to see it keep going. And I would like to see at some point this 68,500 level, which I thought would be resistance, become support, and we keep going higher. So it's looking good for a breakout, but we're not quite there yet. If we look at where we are in Ethereum, because we have been in this really kind of contracting range in Ethereum, let's take this away and just look at this upside here. We've already had a third touch of this 10 trend line, a little false breakout. Are we breaking out in Ethereum and continuing higher? If we do, based on Fib retrace levels, I've drawn my Fib retrace levels in ETH from the high in May of this year, and we can see we had a really good reaction at this 236 Fib. It was resistance and support, and we had a really interesting reaction at this 30 8.2 fib retrace level, so which is also really good support and resistance. And so I think if we're going to keep going higher, 27, first target should really be a retest of this 2,791 level, and then our next upside target, if we can break above that to new highs above our August highs, it's going to be the 200-day moving average and a 50% retrace of this high to low at 3,000. And Ethereum, kind of more than of the other coins, really does like big round numbers. We've seen that in previous moves. They'll tend to make like $500 or moves, and so 3,000 and the 200-day moving average, if we break to new highs above August, would be where I'd be looking to next. So it's looking pretty good. We're not quite out of the woods yet, and where you have to say, if we're looking at this sideways range, I think we're looking pretty good for it, but we haven't quite pushed through. Bitcoin does tend to go first, and a high tide kind of floats all the boats, or as I used to say, in a strong enough wind, even the turkeys will fly. So hopefully the love and this move over the weekend flows through into some altcoins, and we see some really nice, better moves higher. I'm going to take a look. I've got a bunch of requests, and I'm going to take a look at, last time I did kind of bigger coins. I'm going to take a look at some smaller and meme coins and talk about what's going on. So I've got some requests. So first off, the one we're going to look at is GOATC, which is, or GOAT, ticker GOAT, which everyone is trumpeting as the first ever VC-backed AI-endorsed token. I'm not sure it's AI-endorsed in that. So there's a AI financial management platform, which has done kind of pretty well, and it's called the Terminal of Truth, and it was started with venture capital, and suddenly started talking about Goatius Maximus, and that has caused a massive jump in this ticker. So I'll find my ticker, which I can't remember which page I've got it on, and we will take a look. We don't want to be looking at the Trump coins, and we'll take a look at GOAT then and see where we are going. So here is GOAT, and this is a really good lesson here, because an awful lot of altcoins or meme coins, when they start out, so you'll have a really good big spike first, and then an awful lot of people will sell and it'll come all the way, and then it tends to, if it's going to stick around, if the team keeps working on it, if it's really going to be adopted and has a strong community, you tend to see it bottom and make a move higher. And quite a few tiddler coins I'm looking at are doing the same, or meme coins are doing the same thing. And I think it's a good lesson that you don't have to be the first one in, and you don't have to, buy it before anyone else, because if you miss the first spike, it's never going to happen. I think if you can wait and the community prove themselves, that quite a lot of these meme coins can make really rewarding moves after that. So how far is this one going to keep going? We could do fib projections, but it's so far, above. Let's go all the way up. See if it reacted at any of these levels. Yeah. This is one of, when I see a chart like this, like, you're not going to get out until it stops going out. And so for me, I use Heiken-Ashi candles for that. And I tend to go to a bit of a higher time frame. And as long as they're just little shallow sideways pullbacks, sometimes, with nothing on the daily, there really isn't anything to get out of this one yet, and it just keeps creeping higher. If you were looking for pullbacks and you were trading this shorter term, you could say each time on an hourly, we get a nice pullback to the moving averages, go from red to green again, we're still going higher. But at some point, it's really gone too far. It needs a kind of bigger pullback for me. I would like to see some red on the daily and a little pattern like that on the daily before I can buy. But no reason to get out until it does. And it's really, after a spike like this, it kind of needs to calm down before we can look at better entries. But I really do like this if they really are investing and not just pumping it to dump on you. And the first pullback will tell. Like I said, so next request actually is for Mudang. So let's take a look at Mudang, because I've been trading Mudang, and this is quite interesting because this is another one, you know, had its initial launch, and we have to work out all of those initial sellers before this one is going to keep going higher. And for me, the first target, whenever I use a 236 fib, right? So if we were on the way down, for me, we're going up again if we get above that 236 fib. So this first swing lower in Mudang, if I put my fibs on the low, high to low, here we turn higher. See on the daily, we could not close above this 236 fib. It's still going lower. Sure enough, we got a new low. 236 fib from this high to low. Here we had really interesting resistance at 0.16. We tried a couple of days, we tried again, no close above that level. And so down here in Mudang, one other thing I tend to look at is when we have big green thrust candles down like this, especially ones that don't have any tails, 50% back of those big move candles, so like here, 50% up in this big green initially was a really good bounce level, and it works the other way going down. And so if we look at this 50% down and these previous highs and lows, this is a little bit of a resistance level at 0.1 for Mudang, and if we were to get back above it, the first target is going to be this 236 fib, and we're going to be looking for a close above it at 0.138, because all the way down from the highs we have not been able to regain that 236 fib, and above there we can say that trend has changed and we are on our way up, and it will go level to level to level. So at the moment this could just be a little another bounce and a downtrend certainly, but a close above this 50% level here of this last big nasty red thrust candle will be the kind of the first place I'd be looking. So if we look on lower time frames, unfortunately, we've also got this hourly 200 moving average here, and it's looking a little bit three-wave and toppy. But above there, then we can say yes, 0.138, and then potentially we are on our way up again. I like this because I thought the hippo was cute. I thought everyone would like it, and this one might fly. But it's not weird for them to behave like this. But if the interest stays, then this one could still pump. I'm not going to rule against it, and a close and hold above 0.1385 would, for me, suggest we are going to see a little bit of a pump. Okay, next one I've been asked to look at is smoking chicken fish. Okay, one thing that I kind of like about this chart is I kind of like this bottoming pattern, but again, this is another one making a sideways range. Now we could measure our fibs from this super high spike here. I don't always find these super high spikes terribly reliable. In which case, you know, these fibs really aren't working. I like to see the 236 fib, at least the first time back to it, have a reaction, and I really don't see this here. So unfortunately, I'm gonna not use that and say if we take these, we know we're really at the high of the range, and this is what we need to break above if we're going to keep going higher. So I think it's looking good, but this is another one where on a lower time frame I would put my Kaikenimer on and wait for pullbacks to these moving averages to go from red to green and turn up again, you know, and I use a momentum indicator as well. And yeah, I do like this basing pattern. I think that if we can break above that 0.15 resistance that we keep challenging and failing to get above, that this one will fly. Now, traditional technical analysis would say we should go twice the distance of the base that we're building underneath at minimum. So if we measure from this low to high to this line, that would mean our first target would be up here at 0.277, and then I would look at, you know, above there next. But I think first big pullback, if we can break out, that would be my first target, 0.277, and then higher from there. So I do like how we're building a little bit of a base. Just haven't quite got the buy trigger I want to see yet. Let's take a look at some of the older memes. So this is With, right, which has, gosh, been around for 6 months. And it's a really good example of how we have made this big declining wedge come all the way back to the lows. Sellers are exhausted and we're on our way up again. But it's also a really good example if I draw my fib retrace levels from this high to this low, how this 236 fib, which is where we double topped, was the kind of confirmation that we first alert that we were going up again, rather than when we broke out of the wedge. Not only that, but when we got above this 236 fib level here, we held above it and it's at 0.196, and then we're on our way up. And if we look at our next fib level, which is this 38.2, it was resistance. We got knocked back to this 236 fib. Now we're holding above it and we're looking to go high. And for me, the measured move projection in WIF should be at least 3.4. So I think this still has more upside. And I explained in a previous video about how I got my target and where all this confluence comes from. But this is a really good example for these little meme coins. If you didn't catch the first spike, wait for it to come all the way back and wait for the signal that it is going up again. And there is a community still around it that's, you know, busy and exciting. There are quite a few charts that I look at that seem to have similar things going on. So there's a little ones that I've traded. So I traded this one, Kaikenimer, which feeds starving cats. But if we put our fib levels here, you can see that this 236 fib has been really tough resistance since the middle of September. We keep testing it and unable to close above this level at 0.557. And here we have built a really nice right shoulder. A close above 0.557 should see really strong move higher. This is also really interesting support and resistance. And short term, we've also got a little daily moving average. And so, you know, when you consider the shelf life of these meme coins, a lot of them don't have or don't keep going. And the fact that these guys keep working and turning out stuff is pretty interesting. So a hold above 0.557, we should see 0.82 and at least 1.03, which means at least double. And then if it gets picked up, this one will obviously explode. And so that's what I'm looking for WIF to do. Another one, you know, I like animals, and I am a bit of an animal lover. But this 236 fib is at work here in PSPS. So this is another one that's done a very nice three-wave equal measured move lower, where this C leg was 61.8 of the first swing, and this 236 fib level was resistance when this tried to get above it in September, and here we are sideways, hopefully about to try again. So it's at 0.028 in this one, and you can see this one has been around since April. They still have a really active community and team, and so this one could keep going. And for me, holding above 0.028 points to at least 0.052 from here, and then we can say hopefully the bottom is in. When you see a three-wave measured move like this, whether its second swing is 61.8 or it's an equal measured move, usually the 50% is kind of your first wobble target, but most of them go to at least the 786 fib retrace, which for this one, and Kai should do the same, but for this one that would be up here at 0.07849. So that's what I'm looking for in this. But this key resistance, if everything rallies and Bitcoin breaks out and everything's looking really good, holding above 0.03 should see more upside to 0.078 next for this one. Not everything collapses when it's first launched. So this is Klaus, which was a very new one. Obviously this 8 days ago. And this is a really good example of, you know, when you get the big thrust candles, if you don't close more than 50% back on them, this is a daily candle. This is I know it's only 8 days, but 50% back of this open close. Now, when you have a big thrust candle like this, you measure 50% back of the open close, you don't include the spiky tail. It's called a Maribosi line in candlesticks. 1169 then is this. So this, you know, a big strong up and then 3 little dojis back that don't close more than 50% back is kind of pretty bullish consolidation for Klaus. And that kind of points to maybe we're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 and a big wave 5 higher from here. We certainly are holding this support level pretty nicely. It's going sideways at the moment. Again, I'm going to put my Kaikenimer on and look for a big strong green, start move higher. And then that would be, we could call this also kind of a big bullish pennant if you like. So that's what I'm looking for in class. Another one that's doing really kind of nicely, seems to have a lot of interest, is this one, this is another way to look for pullbacks, but what's quite interesting about this one, the bullish thing would be, look how we are holding above these previous highs from June. This is another one that's been around since April, and it's still going strong. This is non-payable coin. Right, obviously, we're not going to want to see a close underneath the 236 fib, right, from the all-time low in this one. So we're going to write that in. The 236 fib is all the way up here, 0.03, and we seem to be holding above it pretty nicely on a close. As long as we keep going, we're still going up if you're in this one. And so I think that looks pretty good. The only thing, you know, when I see a pattern like this, what I don't want to see is an equal measure move. So that means if I measure this first swing from high to low, and then I project it from here, I don't want to see it at an equal measure move, and it's not. It seems to me like we are trying to hold above this 61.8 level. So that means if we keep going higher, that I might have a little bit more concern. I wouldn't want to see a big strong reversal at 0.045, which make this a big kind of ABC. It might even be more like this. So we haven't quite reached that measured move yet. So this one, I think, potentially has more upside as well. And this is another way I look for pullbacks in these meme coins. And honestly, I find that much easier than guessing which one is going to explode and go to the moon. Yeah, unless you just kind of want to invest a little and then wait and see. So yeah, that's how I'm looking. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to look at that you think is setting up, because the more people that see it, the better it'll do.